Sometimes the people we believe we cannot live without are not people we ever truly knew at all. They exist as projections constructed in the imagination of someone searching not for a partner, but for a feeling of aliveness, of completion, of finally being seen by another person in the way we have always hoped to be seen. There is a particular kind of longing that attaches itself not to a real person, but to an image. It is something like an emotional mirage, the way a traveler in the desert sees water shimmering on the horizon, moves toward it with certainty and relief, only to find more sand. The image was never false in the sense of being imaginary. It was real to the one perceiving it, but it did not correspond to anything that could actually sustain life. This is what often happens in relationships built on intense idealization. The feeling is genuine, the certainty is overwhelming, but the person believed to be the source of all that meaning was never fully seen. They were imagined into a shape that fit an internal hunger. Have you ever been certain someone was irreplaceable only to realize, much later, that what you missed most was not them, but who you became in their presence? That the ache was not for their voice or their face, but for the version of yourself that existed only when they were near? Today, we examine a case that illustrates one of the most compelling patterns in relationship psychology. Falling in love not with a person, but with a fantasy. And what happens when that fantasy collapses, leaving behind years of longing for something that was never quite real. This is not a story about heartbreak in the ordinary sense. It is a story about psychological hunger, identity, fragility, and the dangerous allure of intensity mistaken for meaning. A 27-year-old man writes that 3 years ago, he met his dream girl. He uses that phrase himself, then pauses to reflect on it. He notes that whenever he hears someone describe a woman this way, something feels off. He senses immaturity in those words, a kind of naive romanticism he would normally critique, and yet he uses them anyway. He cannot find other words that feel as true. This moment of self-awareness, followed immediately by a return to the very pattern he questions, reveals the depth of internal conflict, the part of him that knows something is distorted, and the part that cannot stop feeling what it feels. The circumstances of how they met carry psychological significance. The woman had recently begun dating his closest friend. On the night this friend introduced them, something happened. An immediate physical encounter he describes as impossible to resist. He states he did not initiate it, but did not stop it either. He felt pulled by a force stronger than his judgment. What followed was not a single lapse. For several months, he continued a secret relationship with her while she remained officially involved with his friend. The deception was sustained. Eventually, the situation was discovered. The friendship ended. She left the friend and began a relationship with him. That relationship lasted approximately 3 months. She ended it, telling him he could not keep up with her lifestyle. She moved on quickly. He did not. 3 years later, he remains fixated. He has been with other women since, he says, but none of them feel the same. He describes her as vibrant, feminine, free-spirited, someone who lived fully on her own terms. He describes his current life as empty, without her, drained of color. He writes, "She was like my missing half. I have not found anyone who completes me the way she did. I do not think I ever will." From a psychological perspective, nearly everything in this narrative reveals more about his internal world than about the woman herself. He betrayed a close friendship on the first night of meeting her, then continued that betrayal for months. When describing this, he expresses regret, but the regret appears disconnected from genuine emotional reckoning. He states he feels very sorry, yet romanticizes the relationship that emerged from this betrayal. The moral breach and the romantic idealization exist side by side, never integrated. This suggests the psychological need she fulfilled was powerful enough to override not only loyalty to a friend, but also his internal sense of coherence. He could not reconcile what he did with who he believed himself to be, so he preserved the fantasy and left the contradiction unexamined. The term manic pixie dream girl originates from film criticism. It describes a recurring character type, a free-spirited, expressive woman who exists primarily to transform the life of an emotionally withdrawn male protagonist. She appears in his dull existence like a burst of light. She is spontaneous where he is rigid, alive where he is numb. The psychological insight is that such a woman, in these narratives, has no independent inner life. She exists only in relation to what she provides to the man. She is not a full person with her own needs and contradictions. She is a function. This is crucial. The dynamic is not really about the woman at all. It is about the role she is assigned in his internal world. Any woman who arrives at the right moment when he is empty enough, hungry enough, can be cast in this role. Her specific qualities matter far less than the psychological vacancy she is recruited to fill. This is why some individuals fall into identical patterns with very different partners. The faces change, the function does not. This pattern emerges when a person experiences identity diffusion, a lack of clear, stable sense of self or purpose. He may go through life's motions, he works, he socializes, but internally, he feels hollow. Something fundamental is missing. Into this void, a particular kind of woman appears. She is expressive, impulsive, perhaps volatile. She seems to live with intensity he cannot access himself. Rather than seeing her as a complex human with her own struggles, he unconsciously assigns her the role of savior. She becomes the one who will make him feel alive. This is precisely what our subject describes. Before meeting her, his life lacked color. When she entered, everything became vivid. When she left, it returned to gray. He is not describing a relationship. He is describing dependency on another person to provide a sense of aliveness he cannot generate on his own. There is a form of narcissism that does not announce itself through arrogance. It hides behind shyness, self-doubt, and melancholy. This is called vulnerable narcissism. The vulnerable narcissist often appears passive and withdrawn, seemingly the opposite of grandiose types. Yet beneath the surface, a similar structure operates. A fragile sense of self dependent on external validation, paired with hidden conviction of being somehow special or exceptional. This is not a moral failing but a developmental outcome. Vulnerable narcissism typically emerges from environments where recognition was inconsistent, where the child received just enough validation to develop a sense of being exceptional, but not enough to feel securely loved. The result is a self-image, both inflated and unstable, requiring continuous reinforcement from outside. This often takes the form of a quiet fantasy. I am extraordinary, but no one has recognized it yet. I contain depths no one sees. Someday, someone will. That someone is usually imagined as a romantic partner. Not just any partner, but one who will finally see the hidden greatness and reflect it back. Our subject fits this pattern clearly. He describes himself as withdrawn, directionless, without purpose. And yet he also mentions being with many women, since none of whom compare. None feel the same. None seem worthy of deeper investment. This is the hidden grandiosity within vulnerable narcissism, the quiet belief that ordinary people are insufficient. Only someone extraordinary, someone who made him feel extraordinary, could ever be enough. When he says no one else feels the same, he is not making a neutral observation. He is revealing that his sense of self remains fragile, still dependent on a very specific kind of external activation. Without it, he cannot access a feeling of aliveness or worth. She became irreplaceable not because of who she was, but because of what she symbolized. Proof that his hidden specialness was real. When this man says no other woman feels the same, he is also describing something neurological. Relationships characterized by intensity and unpredictability activate dopamine systems in ways stable relationships do not. Dopamine responds most powerfully to novelty, surprise, and intermittent reward. The uncertainty becomes part of the hook. The highs feel higher precisely because they are unstable. It is important to distinguish this from secure attachment. These experiences are opposites. Dopamine is activated by unpredictability. Secure attachment is built through consistency, reliability, the slow accumulation of trust. For someone whose early life lacked emotional safety, intensity may feel like love, while genuine safety feels like emptiness or boredom. This is why he finds other women uninteresting. They do not trigger the same internal chaos. They do not activate desperate longing. He interprets their stability as a lack of something essential, when in fact, it is presence of something he was never taught to value. He has confused intensity with intimacy. He has mistaken emotional dysregulation for connection. Additionally, the scarcity principle operates. Because she left because she is unavailable, she becomes more valuable in memory. Her departure froze the fantasy in place. If she had stayed, reality would have slowly intruded. Her flaws would have become visible. But she left before that happened, and so the image remains pristine. He is not longing for her. He is longing for a feeling, one that was never sustainable, because it was built on dysfunction rather than genuine intimacy. Relationships built on this dynamic tend to follow predictable trajectories. In the beginning, there is intensity, a feeling of finally being understood, a sudden sense that life has meaning. The withdrawn man feels awakened. The impulsive woman may enjoy being idealized, enjoy the role of muse, but this structure is inherently unstable. She eventually told him he could not keep up with her lifestyle. Psychologically, she was signaling that the function he served had been completed. Perhaps she had needed adoration. Perhaps she needed reprieve from more chaotic dynamics. Whatever the need, it had been met, and so she moved on. When these relationships end, the devastation is not really about losing a partner. It is about losing the fantasy of who she was, and more painfully, the fantasy of who he became when he was with her. That version of himself, the one who felt alive and special, vanishes along with her. 3 years after a 3-month relationship, this man remains frozen. He describes a life without direction or purpose, the same inner condition he reported before meeting her. Nothing has changed internally. He cycles through encounters with other women, comparing each unfavorably to a memory that was never accurate. This is identity stagnation. His development has been arrested. His emotional energy remains invested in a past that cannot respond, rather than in building a life in the present. This case is not unusual. Many people experience prolonged fixation on past relationships, especially those marked by intensity. What distinguishes more entrenched cases is the degree of identity fragility underneath. When someone cannot release a former partner, the deeper question is, what did that person represent that I cannot provide for myself? For this man, the answer seems to be aliveness, purpose, and proof of specialness. These are not things another person can sustainably provide. They must be cultivated internally. The path forward involves examining the psychological structures that created this vulnerability. This means exploring early attachment experiences and understanding how identity fragility developed. It means recognizing how hidden beliefs in exceptionalism create dependency on external validation. What often happens after genuine therapeutic work is that attraction itself begins to shift. Women who once seemed electric start to appear more clearly, often individuals carrying their own unresolved wounds. And women who previously seemed dull reveal qualities that were always present but invisible. Groundedness, consistency, capacity for repair. This shift is disorienting at first. For someone conditioned to equate intensity with love, healthy attraction may feel like absence. The nervous system may not recognize safety when it appears. It takes time to learn that calm is not emptiness, that reliability is not boredom, that love does not have to hurt to be real. This man is 27. He is not beyond change, but change requires releasing the fantasy not only of her, but of who he becomes when someone like her chooses him. If any part of this resonated, the question worth sitting with is not how do I find someone like her again? The question is, what am I hoping a partner will provide that I have not yet learned to give myself? That question, examined honestly, is where the real work begins. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.